Excited to have the next guest on the Sports Card Shop guest line. He is a hobbyist collector, and he also takes some of the photos we're all so fond of seeing on our cardboard and chrome. Welcome, Brian Rothmuller, to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, Brian, I've had card photographer on before. Very obviously very important to hobbyists, right? Without your work, we wouldn't get to enjoy the cards as we do. But you're also a collector yourself. Talk a little bit about kind of your hobby start, what you collect, and what moves your meter, so to speak.
Sure. So I started collecting in the early '80s when I was a little kid. Um, the first sort of set that I remember was '82 Tops. That was sort of my intro. I don't remember opening too many packs, but I remember like looking through those cards, and anytime I see that design, it definitely like brings back a lot of memories. Um, '82 Tops and then '82 Donruss. I remember getting packs and opening those, and it just sort of took off from then. And collected through my teens, and like everyone else, once I got to college, it kind of slowed down, and I was always aware of them. Like, if I was at the store or Target or something, I would look at them and see sort of what was out there, but didn't really get back into collecting until saw some of my pictures on cards, and then wanted to make sure I had some of those, and then just sort of got back deep into it. And yeah, anytime a new release comes out, it's like Christmas for me because I get to see if any of my photos made the cards, and it's been a lot of fun. So
What do you like personally collect? Do you have a player, a team,
so I just basically collect any cards that feature my photos. So I'll pick up some other stuff here and there, but mostly it's anything that has my photos on it. So I definitely uh, like the ones that feature the throwback designs from the '80s, because those have a special place in my heart. If you would have told 10-year-old me that I'd have photos on cards that I was looking at that point, that probably would have just blown my mind. So definitely gravitate towards those. And obviously, with so much being so expensive these days, I can't get everything that has my photos on it. But yeah, just mainly picking up those, and just sort of tracking uh, what is coming out, and when it's coming out. And definitely spend a lot of time on eBay just looking at uh, others people's photos that have gotten on cards, and what Tops and Panini like to use. And um, I spent a lot of time during COVID doing that, and I feel like it really helped sort of what my eye was looking for when I'm out working. So and definitely has exploded the amount of my photos that have been on cards since then. So
you mentioned even as a kid, looking at the cards and the photos, and to think, like you said, all these years later, you'll be directly involved into this whole process. When did you really, when did that become an aspiration, or how did it all kind of
I mean, when
matriculate
I was
into?
little, I never thought that you could do that, like, as a job. It's just like, okay, no one grows up and takes pictures for cards. But um, I would always be interested in the cards that had really cool action shots. I remember the '82 Tops. They had the in action cards, which were, I remember I had this
Yeah.
Carlton Fisk one that was horizontal, and I just thought it was so cool how he's like, I think he's diving for the ball, or stretched out. Um, and it's funny, my mom actually moved from our house that she had lived in for 30 years last year, and I was up there looking at stuff, and I found like cards that I had created like when I was a kid, just with pictures and designs. And so I definitely had that creative itch, I guess, at that age. And when I got out of college, I worked in advertising for a long time, and then Had some health things that I needed to step away, and was just sort of doing photography part time, and then it just blew into a full time gig. So just sort of kind of lucked into it, and then took off once I started doing it full time. So
Yeah, I mentioned to you before we started recording. Nick Wasik has been on the show. He does a lot of stuff with Upper Deck and hockey. You do pretty much tops Panini. I mean, what talk about where we might find some of your work as far as on the cardboard? People opening packs. Where might your photography be illustrated?
So I would say probably 80% of my stuff is on baseball, just because I shoot so much of it. Um, then another percentage is golf. Upper Deck has brought back golf the last 4 years or so. So it's exciting to see some of my pictures of Tiger on cards. Um, that was another wow moment for me, seeing that. And I don't shoot a ton of hockey. I've had some hockey cards, but I'm not like Nick, where that's like his passion. And didn't really grow up with in the Bay Area. By the time I was sort of moving out of there, the Sharks had come in, and so I didn't really grow up with hockey. Hockey's a really hard sport to shoot. The people who shoot it have that eye and have that talent, and they're really good at it. So I'd say golf, football, basketball, a lot of the college stuff that's coming out now, with Bowman U. I shoot a ton of college basketball, a ton of college football. So a lot of my pictures of Caleb Williams that I shot were on cards, and um, shot a bunch of Brawny this year. So um, yeah, it's a wide variety. I would say mainly baseball, but I do shoot a lot of other sports as well. So
How competitive of an industry is sports and sports card photography? And is it generally a fraternity where most people get along and kind of help each other out, or can it be competitive, or it really depends on the individual?
So it's interesting because, like, when I grew up in the '80s, they each of these companies had their own photographers that they had full time traveling and shooting games, and um, that's just not the way it is anymore. It just doesn't make any sense for them to do that financially, and I'm not sure exactly when that stopped. But for baseball buys all their photos from Getty Images, which is a wire service. So anyone who shoots for Getty, uh, or shoots for another company that publishes their photos on Getty, that's the stockpile that Tops goes through to grab their photos. So you'll see a lot of people, they'll post a picture and they'll be like, "Oh, why isn't this on a card?" Well, if it's not a Getty photo, it's not going to make it on a card. So in terms of competition, I mean, there's a there's a handful of us who are like card guys. You mentioned Nick. There's a guy in Colorado. There's a couple guys in New York, and they love seeing their photos on cards. They know what kind of photos go on cards. Um, in LA, I mean, I feel like I'm sort of the only person who's kind of doing that. There's great photographers here, but they're focused on getting their photos in the newspapers and magazines and all those, and online, and I'm kind of shooting in a different way, in terms of shooting a lot of sort of behind the scenes stuff, like in the dugout, where I'm trying to get image variation shots, and shooting a lot of batting stances, and just knowing what the different sets are and the different pictures that they're looking for. So I don't think, I mean, if you ask the guys who are sort of card guy photographers, they're doing it that way, and they're successful because of that. And it's not to say that you know other photographers who shoot for Getty don't get cards. It's just um, we have a slight advantage of knowing a little bit about the industry and little bit about what they're looking for. And um, I'm more excited when my photos get on cards than if it goes online or gets in a magazine or anything like that. Um, so I would say we're a rare breed, but we definitely bond together, and share things that we see, and it's a fun little group we have.
No doubt. Kind of a two-pronged question, Brian, too. Do you think being a collector yourself gives you an advantage as a photographer? I think you touched a little bit on that. And what percentage of sports photographers, obviously you collect, I know Nick does as well. But what overall, what percent do you think the majority probably don't in the grand scheme of things? So two pronged there. Does collecting give you an advantage as a photographer, and what percentage of the industry are collectors like yourself, would you say,
I
or
would say it's
guess?
a small percentage, but I feel like more people are sort of coming out of the woodworks lately and posting, oh hey, I got a photo on a card, and um, it's sort of become cool again, I guess maybe, or um, but I would say it's a small percentage in terms of having an advantage. Totally, I mean, it's like you know exactly what they're looking for, um, and it has become a challenge now that sort of Tops has gotten moved into Fanatics. They've sort of changed how they use photos on their cards, especially in their flagship brand. They For a while they just used sort of any photos. It was home, away, whatever uniform. And about 2 years ago, they started almost using exclusively home uniforms on all the flagship cards. So that cuts into my sales a little bit. Um, I mean, I am lucky. I live in LA and I get to shoot Dodgers and Angels. I don't know if I'd say lucky to shoot the Angels this year, um, uh, but yeah, just knowing that, and some of the other brands, they don't really, or products, they don't really care if it's a home or away jersey. But that's one thing I noticed, and yeah, just knowing what shots they like and what shots they use. Um, a lot of people don't shoot batting practice, other photographers, unless it's like, a big team coming in like the Yankees or something like that. And I'm normally out there, every batting practice trying to get, one or two sort of fun shots that could appear on an SSP or an image variation card. And um, so I'm looking for that, and the other photographers, they're definitely not looking for that. They're looking for something else. So that gives me an advantage, and sometimes I'll be out there for an hour and not get anything at all, and sometimes I'll be out there for an hour and get a bunch of stuff. So it's just sort of luck of the draw. The players might be in a good mood that day, or they might not be in a good mood that day. And some of the bigger players, they don't even come out for batting practice anymore. They just hit, underneath the dugout and the tunnels. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'm trying to get stuff that I've seen on cards or would like to see on cards. Um, and they're definitely been pushing a little more. Cooler images, I guess, a little more variety images, especially with all the image variations. I mean, it's kind of overkill with having an image variation for every card, um, but there have been some cool ones that probably wouldn't have existed if they just sort of stuck with what they were doing in the past. So um, yeah, for me, it's always finding the cool shots that show up on Stadium Club or an image variation. Those I get the biggest kick out of. So.
Yeah, I like the, I'll use an analogy. Like you said, you could be out there an hour and not maybe get a great shot available to you, or another hour where you got multiple. It almost sounds like fishing. You
It
throw
is
your line in
fishing.
the water and
Yeah.
you have a good hour, or no one's biting the worm for an hour. Um, you mentioned a Stadium Club, one of my favorite brands for exactly probably the reason, what you do. There's some of the greatest photography is in that brand. You mentioned, is do you like Stadium Club for the same reason, as a photographer, because you get some of that different shots than the standalone, close facial shot, or just a guy standing in the batter's box, or that sort of thing?
Yeah, I think I mean, when I was growing up, Stadium Club was like, the first like premium brand too. So it was like, oh wow, I got a pack of Stadium Club. That's amazing. and I remember, they had the big like Kodak logo on the front of the package and the pack, and it was this premium sort of photo driven site. So I've always been drawn to it. I always like looking at what photos they choose for specific cards, and it gives me ideas for what I might go out and shoot for the next year. And um, yeah, it's definitely a favorite site. I mean, a favorite set. And yeah, I do like seeing it every time it comes out. So it's interesting though, because I'll see some photos and I'll be like, oh, they couldn't find a better photo than that, and then there'll be some that are just great that you're just like, wow, um, they really hit it on this one. So it's a fun set.
Yeah, it just kind of separates itself to me from the flagship. You get the glossiness, some of the different shots you're not getting in some of the other releases. Like you mentioned, Tops has really went to um, home uniforms. Do you know why that is, or do you have a theory what
I
that's
mean, my
about?
theory is just like, if you're a fan of the team, you want to see them in the home uniform. So like, if you're a Yankees fan, you want to see Judge in the pinstripes. You don't want to see him in the grays. So I'm sure it's just a brand manager or a creative person just sort of said this is probably what the fans would like to see. So that's sort of how I took it. Um, but I haven't heard anything directly, but I've definitely noticed that you know, if you look at the flagship cards, they're almost all home shot cards, unless it's a player that was either called up late in the season where he doesn't have a ton of photos in his home jersey, or got hurt early in the season or something like that. But most of them are all home jerseys. So even the so for series two, they did a lot of photoshopping of Otani cards and Soto cards, and all the players that switch teams, and they're pretty much all photoshopped into the white jersey as well. So um, even taking a road jersey of Otani and turning it into a white jersey of the Dodgers. So
Yeah, the other question you mentioned, Tops really utilizes like Getty Images almost exclusively. Again, I'll acquiesce to your expertise. I would think it would make more economical sense, Brian, for them to use the photographers directly. I mean, Getty's not cheap. I've seen sometimes to use an image. Why do you think? Again, theory wise, why do you think Tops does that rather than just hire a photographer or a photographer pool? Why do you think? To me, it seems like that would be the more expensive route. Now, Fanatics is not short of money, but you think you'd want to save where you could as well.
yeah, they buy so much. They buy so many images that they get such a discount on them. So it definitely saves them money doing the get. And then they have just a bigger pool of images to choose from too. You hire one photographer to shoot, say one Dodgers game in a week. Maybe some of the players don't play, or they go for four, and you don't get anything. At least this way, there's a Getty photographer at every game, so you have all the shots covered. And um, I think financially, it's cheaper on them to just buy them off the site based on just the quantity that they buy. They get such a discount at it. So um, yeah, that's what I'd say about that.
Okay, yeah, I didn't really think about that aspect and the amount they're probably acquiring. They're getting sort of that quantity discount, if you will. Do you stay with what you shoot? Do you stay pretty much on the West Coast? How far do you get to travel
Yeah, I
for?
don't travel too much, mainly West Coast. When my mom lived up in the Bay Area, I would go up there quite a bit to shoot, either a Niners game or some Giants games. But living in LA, I mean, there's plenty to keep me busy with two baseball teams. I mean, there's San Diego too, which is close by. So I'm never short of events to work. So there's definitely plenty out here, and um, when it was a bigger advantage when before the MLB started this new schedule where everyone sort of played everyone because uh, I would have American League team and a National League team here, so I would sort of get everyone. But now with everybody sort of playing more teams, it that advantage sort of went away. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm covered here plenty with you know two NFL teams and two NBA teams and two baseball teams and hockey teams, and so I'm in a good spot. Plus, the teams are good except for the Angels right now. But um, yeah, that's a whole nother story probably.
Yeah, I know your schedule probably varies, but in an average, 7-day week, how many days are you shooting? Would you say?
It just depends. I mean, it normally works out where if the Dodgers are here, the Angels are on the road. There's very rare cases where they're both at home. That's only for like a couple days. So right now, the Dodgers are about to go on the road, so I'm shooting Angels tonight, and then I think I have another game on Thursday, Angels game. So I shoot less Angels games than I shoot Dodgers games, just based on the players. And with Trout hurt right now, it's it's sort of slim pickings. I have the A's tonight against the Angels, and then the Tigers versus the Angels. So yeah, those will probably be some games that will be a little not as good as some of the other games. But yeah, for a Dodgers series, normally I'm shooting like maybe two out of the three games that they're playing. Uh, I have the biggest Otani curse right now. I haven't been to one game this season that he's hit a home run. Um, I didn't work at all last week, and he
So
hit
he
like a home
doesn't
run.
want you. So
He
he
hit
doesn't really
he hit a
want
home
you
run
to.
at every game, pretty much, that I haven't been. It's like a running joke now. It's like, just if he knew like he was batting like 200 when I went to the games, he probably would just pay me not to show up. But yeah, it's bad right now. I haven't gotten a home run. Last year, I was at the game where he blew out his elbow. Um, so yeah, he probably doesn't want any part of me.
So you're the guy. No, I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
it's all my fault. So, uh, but
That's
yeah, it's
funny.
it's been weird. Like this year, I think I shot like five of almost all of Yamamoto's home starts, including the one he got hurt at. Um, and so my luck was good with that. But yeah, Otani, I don't know. It's just a lot of walks, a lot of singles. He's stolen a ton of bases, but I mean, you can only get so many photos of that. Um, and then I see these beautiful pictures of him staring at these long home runs that he's hitting while, I'm at home, not working, and it's just sort of laugh now. So
Now, Brian, do you set your own schedule, or are you like
it's a
how do you set
combination.
your?
Yeah, I can set some of it. Some of it just depends. We have a couple of photographers here, so um, we balance it out. I can set it more with the Dodgers than the Angels. There's another guy who shoots the Angels who's been shooting them for years. He used to be the team photographer, so he sort of gets first crack. I get second crack, but I sort of get first crack at the Dodgers. And yeah, I try to balance it out. I mean, I do have a 2-year-old at home, so it's hard when I get home late or not home for dinner. So it's definitely been sort of a balance in time to try to figure out how often I work and the cadence of that. And I think I've sort of settled down to a good cadence. But when I'm not working, I have images that I need to edit. So normally at a game, it's 30 or so images go up either during or after the game, and then I'll post maybe up to 100 more in the coming days after that. So uh, yeah, I shoot probably 2,000 images a game, so I have to go through all those after, and there's always work to be done. I always sort of get behind in my editing, especially when I work a bunch of games in a row. It just sort of piles up. So even when I'm not at a game, there's definitely work to be done. So
I'm glad you mentioned that, Brian. Every people who don't realize or don't really think about things think like, hey, this guy's got the great, and you have a great job. I think you agree, but like he just gets to take pictures and then he's done. They don't realize the stuff that goes on behind the scenes, the editing. Hey, I like this shot. Nah, that this didn't turn out the way I hoped. So you delete that, or they don't realize the work. It's not just going to a game, taking a bunch of pictures and you're done. Maybe to someone that doesn't know, that's what they think. I realized that just from you know being in the industry, talking with Nick Pryor and stuff. There's work that goes into it. The other misconception, and I'll let you touch on this too, is like, oh, you get to watch, you know, sports for free, you know, but you're working. Like you can't really get caught up in the moment because you never know when that next shot's gonna, be. So kind of talk about that as like you're at the game, but you're at the game in a different perspective than your average fan. But maybe it's a combination of both.
yeah, I mean, there's definitely photographers out here that shoot for various publications, and they're sort of there to shoot, but also just to be seen and sort of be at the game. And um, that's that's just sort of not how I see it at all. I mean, the minute you're get wrapped up in a game is the minute you miss a shot. Um, Especially right now, it's like sort of the dog days of summer. I've shot so many games already this year that um, everything starts to look the same out of my camera, um, and it becomes a challenge at a boring game to keep focused. And there was an Angels game a couple weeks ago where my mind was going and wasn't totally focused in the game, and I missed like 3 shots, and I was just like, okay, I need to like you know keep it together because everyone around me was sort of doing the same thing too. It was like everyone was just kind of talking, and it was a blowout, and but I missed a shot that could have made me money. So I need to be focused. The second you become a fan is the second you just miss everything. You get wrapped up in it, and it's it's uh, it's not good. So I mean, a lot of people, when I tell them what I do, they go, "Oh, that's so cool! You get to be in the dugout and do this, and oh, do you talk to players and blah blah blah?" And like, okay, it's totally not like that. Like, if a player says something to me, then sure, I'll engage. But like, it's a like they're there to do their job, and we're here to do our job. Like, and it's not really professional to just start talking to someone and you know they're not there to talk to you. They're there to play a game. So occasionally a player will ask to see a picture or something. That I took a picture of um, the Kansas City Royals, Sal Perez, in the dugout before the game, and it's like maybe an hour, 45 minutes before the game, and he was about to go out to the bullpen to warm up the catcher, and he is one of the players that blow the best bubbles of any players in the major leagues. Like as a photographer, I love big bubbles. I love eye black. I love sunglasses. Like anything that just like brings something else to the photo besides just the normal stuff. So he was blowing bubbles in the dugout. He was and just sitting in there, and I was taking some pictures, and he blew this huge one, and I took a picture of it, and he laughed, and he's like, "That was a good bubble." So I showed it to him, and that sort of interaction is very rare. It was so early, like the game hadn't started, there was no one else around, like, and we were sort of having a moment. Like he knew I was taking pictures, he was okay with it. Some of the players, like if you stick a camera towards in their direction before the game, you can just tell they don't they don't want it. Like you sort of just you're not going to get a good picture out of it, and you're just going to annoy them. So, um, there's a fine line between doing that and not doing it. But um, yeah, that's sort of a long answer. But I could give you like a breakdown of what my day looks like. It would probably blow people's minds in terms of how long we're actually at the stadium and all that and what goes into it. So um, if I'm driving up to LA, I live in Orange County, which uh, is about an hour from LA, but it's never an hour. So I leave here around 2:30 for a 7 o'clock game. Get there maybe around 4, and then Dodger Stadium has the worst elevator system in all of stadiums, so I have to wait for the elevator, go down the field. Um, Batting practice starts at 4 for the home team. So I got to set up all my gear and just sort of stand and hope something happens. Standing around a lot, um, and then you wait for the opposing team to come out. They come out around 5. Um, the best time to get photos is when the players first come out and they're about to stretch because they're just kind of loose. They got their sunglasses on. They're joking around. That's where a lot of the photos where um, image variations come from, are those shots. And then they'll do batting practice. Sort of go back inside, get all my stuff ready for the game, and then yeah, the game starts 7 o'clock. In between innings, after something good happens, I have to go back underneath the stadium to where our computers are and edit and post the pictures. Go back out. Uh, you know, it's probably a 3 hour. The games have been a little shorter, which has been nice, but 3 hour game, and then another half hour to 45 minutes editing after that, waiting for the elevator, and then yeah, get to the parking lot and there's still traffic getting out of the stadium. So sometimes it takes 20 minutes to get out of the stadium, and then by the time I get back to Orange County, it's normally around midnight. So it's a long day, and you can have games where you just don't get anything, and it can be frustrating when you have 2 or 3 of those in a row where you spend so much time and so much energy and you just sort of get a dud of a game. But um, yeah, you just got to press on, and then eventually you get a good one, and uh, you get a bunch of images that you like. So, um, but it's not all fun and games. We're dodging foul balls hitting our direction, um, making sure that we're safe, and yeah, it's a dream job, but it's also a ton of work that people, like you said, don't even know behind the scenes. So
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing some of your day like that, because I think it's important for people think it's like, hey, you go to the game, you shoot for a couple hours and you go home.
yeah,
It's not. You got to get there early. It's not the game, like you said. You got batting practice where some of those great shots are going to come out of, like just them
yep,
stretching in the outfield. It's a full day. It's more than probably 8 hours, like you said. You're leaving at 2:30. You're getting home at midnight. That's a 10 hour from start to finish with work. That's a 10 hour, almost a 10 hour day, and you really have to have a passion for it. You can't. I think you'll agree, Brian. You can't half-ass it, right? I mean, you could, but the proof's going to be in the pudding. And like you said, it's hard enough to get a shot when you're on your toes if you're not doing your due diligence, you know. So I know this, but I think it's important for other people to realize while it's a very cool job, it is a job, and you're putting in the work and you're grinding. I think it's
yeah,
important.
definitely. It definitely can be a grind. I mean, baseball is. Basketball is a little different. You can show up later, and it's not as it's a shorter
Yeah.
game. But baseball, football is an all day thing too. The footballs in the fall are tough. If I'm shooting a college game one day and then a pro game the next day, that's a grind too. So, and football's constantly, you're running up and down the sidelines. you're moving. There's no baseball. At least you're sort of standing around, and it's a little easier on your body. But football, you're on the move for 3 or 4 hours. So
Is obviously most people now know about the new time rules in Major League Baseball with the pitch clock and limiting throws over. Has that made your job uh, easier or more difficult, or maybe kind of both, depending on the situation?
I mean, it's easier in the sense that the games are shorter. Anytime there's a 2-hour game, it's like all the photographers are, have huge smiles on their faces. Um, but it can be difficult in terms of the amount of time you have to edit because the innings are shorter. Um, I think last year there was a couple games where in the beginning I would miss like 2 or 3 innings, and I would be like, "Wait, how did that go so fast?" Like, normally that would be like an inning and a half. So there's a TV, where we edit, so you can keep track of what's going on. But I mean, that's more challenging in terms of just being quicker with what you do and getting back out there so you don't miss a bunch of stuff. In terms of the pitch clock during the game, each at bat, I have found that the game is a lot faster where if you're taking a picture and someone hits a foul ball and then you see something that you want to shoot, maybe it's a fielder smiling or doing something in between a pitch, you're going to miss the next pitch because it's too quick. That happened to me in an Angels game the other day. I was like on a fielder and then on the batter and then went back to the fielder thinking I had plenty of time to go back on the batter and I didn't. So it's speedy in that sense. I mean, some of the pitchers definitely work faster than others, um, and some of them, run the clock down to the last couple seconds. But um, I would say for the most part, it's an advantage for us just not having as long games as we could. And the extra base runner and the extra innings, I hate that rule, but as a photographer, I love it because the game's not going to go 17 innings. We're not going to sit there until 1 a.m. at night and still be working. And yeah, so at least the games will get over quicker. But yeah, as a fan, I don't like the rule, but as a photographer, I'll take it.
Yeah, me either. But so what you just said, Bert, makes me think about another question. Let's say it is an extra inning game, and for whatever reason, whether the team's scoring and the other team matches the score and it continues to go in extra innings. As a photographer, do you have to stay till the final out, or can you say, "Hey, I'm done shooting. I'm wrapping. I'm calling it a day." What's kind of the advocate
I
or
mean, if it's an extra inning game, then you're staying because you want the celebration, you want all that stuff. I mean, if it's a 15-1 game and it's the eighth inning and you're just kind of like, okay, that all the regulars are out. There's no like rookies in the game. Then I might go back and just do my edit a little early and not shoot the last 2 innings just to try to get out of there a little earlier. But um, there's been times where that's happened, and I'll go in, and then a position player will come in to pitch, and I'll be like, oh great, I got to go back out there and take a picture of that because that may never happen again. Um, and then uh, yeah, so I would say for the most part, you're there. Um, it's just if the game's a blowout, say they take Mookie out, say they take Shohei out, like, okay, I'm gonna go in and edit. Like, there's nothing left for me here. I might miss something, but the odds are so small that I might miss something at that point. So, um, with the
yeah?
Dodgers, it's like we all do it, but we try to time our editing around. Well, when is Shohei going to get up again? So it's like, okay, he just hit the last inning. You can just see a flood of photographers going in and editing because he was the last out, and we have 9 more batters. Hopefully, they won't bat around and he won't get up again. But yeah, you definitely have to time your editing around who's up, who's going to be up, who you're there to shoot. all that sort of stuff. And, also, the light, if the light is really good and it's not nighttime yet, you want to stay out there until, maybe the light gets bad and then go in and edit a little bit. So, um, I'm constantly thinking, sometimes overthinking. I mean, we have several different positions where we can stand too. So I'm trying to, think ahead, like, okay, this person's going to get up. He looks better swinging from the right side. I'm currently on the left side. Do I want to go to the other side? Um, if I don't do it this inning, do I want to do it next inning? Um, I do a lot of research pregame on like batters who I haven't shot before, or new players, just to see what their swing looks like, and see what side potentially looks better. A lot of players wear that huge thing over their like their jaw and their face now, which makes it really hard to get a good shot of their eyes when they swing. So you gotta take that into effect. You gotta take in effect that, like, is it a pull hitter? Is it not a pull hitter? Like, uh, I mean, Shohei looks good from both sides because he hits a lot of balls in all directions of the field. Um, but some players just don't. Like, you just, unless they hit a foul ball that kind of looks like a fair ball and they really open up and you can see their eyes. But yeah, there's a lot of research and just knowledge base that I try to think about beforehand, to give myself sort of a leg up when I'm out there. So I'm not looking at my photos as I'm shooting them, going, "Oh, this is not the side to be on. Like, I should have went to the other side," because you don't have time to really do that during the game. If you're doing it during the game, then you're probably screwing up and missing stuff. So
Yeah, there's a strategy involved here too as well. Like you said, you're thinking sort of even before the game, your approach or how you're going to shoot the game. And people, again, I think that's lost on people who think you just find a spot and that's it for the whole game. You're just shooting. The one thing I wondered about, Brian, is obviously your credential to get in and be in the access those areas. Do you have to let the team know like ahead, I'm attending today's game? Do they know like what photographers are coming? Or can you just show up and say I'm here? How does that work?
so there's two types of credentials you can get. You can get a season credential, which means you can go to any game, or they have daily credentials, which are for the specific game. So your editor just either applies for the games that you want to go to, or if you have a season credential, um, you don't have to tell them. They just sort of know that these outlets have season credentials. They're probably going to be at the game. So Dodgers this year definitely cut down on the amount of credentials. I mean, for the U.S. Press, just because there was so much international people that they had to fit in. So, um, which wasn't new, because that's sort of how it was with the Angels when Otani was there too. There's actually a lot more room for photographers at Angels than Dodgers. So it's been a little challenging, but they're great to work with. They're very aware of not trying to get in your way, and they're mainly there to shoot Shohei. So um, when another player gets up, if you need to get in their spot, they move out of the way. And I think it's when Shohei got up the other night, the photographer next to me is from Japan, and he was one of the coaches was completely blocking him because he was standing on the stairs. So moved over a little bit to make sure that he get its shot. And it's just sort of those small things that you do that for them, they do it for you, and um, it's just showing that you're aware of what's going on. And um, so it's been fun. I think shooting Shohei's pretty wild in the sense that uh, he's got cameras on him at all times. I mean, he's been doing some light throwing during batting practice, and there's 5 TV cameras and maybe 10 international press cameras just on him the whole time. And, you would think that would wear on somebody, but he handles it pretty well. So, um, but it's definitely a blessing to be in the LA market right now with Otani, being a Dodger for the next 10 years or whatever it is. So,
You mentioned, SSPs, variations, trying to catch those type of shots potentially. Do you ever, I don't want to say orders, do you ever have like, hey, we need this, like going in, like this is something that's requested, like I got to get this shot?
no, because I don't have any direct communication with the card companies.
Okay.
I I'll say that to myself. Like I'll say, okay, I need a picture of uh, whoever it is when they come out for batting practice. I'm looking for them doing specific things, or um, I like to get pictures of the players in the dugouts before the game. So um, you know, that's on me. Like I need to get to this side to make sure I try to get a picture of them before the game, and I sort of know what I'm looking for um, in that. I would say that's mostly with baseball. Like with basketball, there's really not um, anything that you can get that's sort of different, like baseball, because there's so much. I mean, you don't really want to get a picture of some guy just sort of warming up in basketball, like with his t-shirt on and his headphones on. Like it's not really something that you would see on a card. So um, yeah, it's mainly what I'm telling myself that I need to get, and making sure that I put myself in the best position to get it, and know that most of the time, even if you make a good plan, it's going to get blown up by something. So, not getting completely frustrated by that. There's been times where players are coming out of the clubhouse, going into the dugout, and they'll have a great big smile on their face. They'll be carrying all their gear, and it's like the perfect shot. And then a coach or another player will walk sort of right in front of him and give him a high five. And by the time he gets in an area where I have a clear shot of him, the smile's gone, like the photo's gone, and it's frustrating, but it's like, okay, well, I couldn't have done anything differently. Um, just sort of the luck of the draw. So you come back the next day hoping that you can get that opportunity again, and then maybe he's not smiling the next game. So it's you just can't be hard on yourself because there's so many variables that you just can't control. So you can just do the best you can.
Yeah, I love these stories, and I think it's important for people to know. Like, it's not just showing up, taking 1,000 pictures, and then driving home and doing it again the next day. Right? There's a strategy involved here too. Much like you see a player pull a card out of his back pocket as to where he should be positioned with certain
Yep.
batters.
Oh, I
You
need
know,
those. Oh, I should
yeah,
get those. That would be great.
but
It's like Shohei's up. Oh, I should have been on the other side. Like I need to be the other side, the third position. Oh, that would be great. I wonder if I
um,
could market those for other
there,
photographers.
there you go. Photography for dummies,
Yeah,
if you will. Sports photography.
yeah.
um, with I believe, you could correct me if I'm wrong. Your photos have appeared on 4,000 cards. Is that correct?
Yeah, so it's funny because during COVID, I started this spreadsheet that was, all my cards. It had the names, the little picture of them. I got up to about 2,000, and then my son was born, and that spreadsheet has not been touched since then. So I would say it's probably around 4,000. I I wanted to go back and do it, but it's such a big project to do now because it's been 2 years, that I don't know if that'll happen, but, yeah, it's probably around 4,000, and, I'm I'm sort of in my sales logs, I sort of have 100 to 150 to 200 cards every month that, I get paid for, so, um, you know, that's sort of.
That was my next question, Brian. Do you know? what shots ahead of time are going to eventually make their way onto a card?
No, I mean, I'll have ideas. Like, there's definitely pictures I'll take where I'll be like, oh, that's perfect for a card. And, in 6 to 12 months, it's probably going to be on a card. Um, and then it will appear. So I don't know beforehand. By the time I get my reports, normally the cards have been already out. So I don't know. I don't know what they're going to be on. My reports don't say like, Mookie Betts, here's the picture, and it's on Stadium Club. It just says Topps. So it's like, it could be on any Topps product. It could be on the front. It could be on the back. Um, the backs are hard to judge in terms of photos because a lot of people don't take pictures of the backs like on eBay. So
Well, I was going to ask you, how do you know? Like, so you could open a pack, and that's how you discover your photos been
yeah,
used on the card, like in real time, like you're finding out on the fly.
yeah. It's
Like,
like I said, it's like Christmas morning. It's like when Series 2 came out. I think I watched like a break of someone opening like a hobby box, and he was going way too fast through the cards. I was like, slow down. Like, I think that one's mine. Like, trying to take screenshots to see, to look later. But yeah, I mean, normally it's just, if a set comes out, I'll put a safe search in eBay, and then, once cards fly up there, then I'll sort of look at them. And I know the teams and players that I shot from the last year, and um, for the most part, if I see a card, I'll know, yeah, that's my shot. That's not my shot. Some people think that's weird
I
that
was
you
going to
know that.
ask you about that. How
Yeah.
difficult is that? Because I mean, a lot of times they're shot from the same angle by a different photographer. How do you know? Like, I know but like, how do you? Like, how difficult is that?
Sometimes you can tell, like, just the position and stuff. Sometimes, like, the colors, like, just sort of look like the colors of the photos I take. Um, Sometimes, uh, yeah, it's just the angles or the pictures, or I just remember, oh, I remember editing that picture. There'll definitely be times where I'll look at something, I'll be like, that looks like something I might have shot, and then I'll look and I'll be like, oh, that's at the game I was at, but that's not my photo. So, um, but I've gotten pretty good where, for the most part, I'll know, okay, I shot them in that uniform against this team, so could be. Um, it's definitely harder with the Photoshop jerseys because, like, you don't know sometimes. So lately, Topps has been doing this thing where, for Otani, they took a picture of him at an Angels game where he hit a home run, and they retouched it to the Dodgers uniform, which would have been easy to see if the Angels like stadium was still in the background, but they took him out of the Angels stadium and put him into the Dodgers stadium. So there's like all these variables where I'm like, okay, well, that's definitely not from this year, even though it's the stadium. And so those are a little harder to figure out, especially with like pictures of Yamamoto. I got into some argument on social media with this guy saying, "How do you know that that is a Photoshop picture?" I'm like, "Because you can't take that picture in Dodger Stadium. Like, that angle is not possible. Like, it's like not possible." They're like, "Well, what if some other photographer got?" I'm like, "It's not possible. Like,
Yeah,
it
you
was a
can
picture from
only
him from
be in
Japan."
certain areas.
Yeah, it was a picture
You're
from
not going
him.
to be sitting on the bench next to a
Yeah.
player not in the game just to get this. Like, that doesn't
Yep.
happen like that.
So those
Yeah,
those are definitely tricky to figure out whose they are. And the top Series 2 packaging is a picture of Juan Soto, and I
yeah,
saw
that's
the picture
yours.
and I was like, okay, that seems to be something that I might have shot last year when he was on the Padres. And I looked, and they did a great job of photoshopping that one. I mean, they probably spent a lot of time since it's on the packaging, but yeah, the picture on Series 2 is a Photoshop picture of Juan Soto in his Yankees uniform from last year in his Padres uniform that I shot when he hit a home run.
They don't have to tell you. They have poetic license at that point after you know.
Yeah, they can do whatever. Yeah.
Okay,
I
I
mean,
just
within
was
reason,
wondering.
right? I mean, they're not going to put like, a hat on someone that's like a birthday hat or something, or
Unless it's the holiday box, they could put
yes,
it.
that is true. A candy cane bat. I've had some of those too.
Well, that's real cool, very cool, man. And like literally to open a pack and see you work, like I don't want to say for the first time, but like, hey, it's on this card. Um, like that's just got to be a pretty cool moment, I would think.
Yeah, it's cool. Like some of my friends, they have kids who were playing little league, and uh, about a month ago, I brought some packs down, and we're opening them, and they're like, "Is this your card? Is this your picture?" And I'm like, "That's my picture." And one of them wanted me to sign it. It was like a Julio Rodriguez card. I was like, "I don't think you want me to sign this. Like, it's gonna go down in value." Like, he's like, "No, I want you to sign it." I'm like, "No, I'm not signing it." So
Yeah,
that's fun, like just opening packs with kids and
yeah, no doubt.
giving kids cards that have my photos on it and telling them that that I took that picture. They're like, what? So
And maybe you're aspiring a young man or woman to follow in your footsteps and carry the torch when they get older as well. So
yeah, my wife
that'll
says that I
be
should write a kids book about cards and photos, and she's like, there's something there, and we'll
yeah.
see.
Yeah, well, maybe and we'll have you back anyway. But if you definitely do that, we'll definitely have you back and talk about that. Do you go to games just as a fan? Do you get to do that, or are you so like from attending so many as work? Do you kind of just want to decompress? Talk about
Yeah,
like
it's
the
funny because I used to go to so many games as a fan, and um, it's totally different now. I think the last game I went to was a Braves game when my wife and I were visiting her family in Atlanta. And I mean, we had great seats, but the whole game I was like watching like the photographers and like seeing what they were doing and like watching the light because it was like really pretty sunset, and
so you
I
still
couldn't
got your
just
game face on.
I
You
couldn't
still
turn
got
my
your game.
mind off. Like I couldn't just like watch and like not think about like, well, if I was here, I'd be doing this. And it's funny because one of the great photographers in LA, he's shot for Getty for years. He was watching the Masters during a rain delay at the Dodgers game this year, and he was the same way. He was like watching on TV, and he was like, okay, like I would be over in that corner, shooting in this direction. Like he was still playing the game in his mind, even though he wasn't there and just watching on TV, which I mean, that's sort of crazy. I mean, that's how you get good at your craft too, is like, thinking it through like that. But yeah, I haven't been to too many games as a fan. I think once my son gets a little older, I think I'll start going some more. I took him to batting practice uh, to the Angels like a month ago, and he lasted about 10 minutes on the field, just being interested. But yeah, he loves baseball, but it's too early to get him to a game. But that'll be fun. That'll be like a new version of a fan. But yeah, it's
Yeah,
hard to
true
it's
with
hard to go
kids.
to a game and
Kids
sit
are
far away when I'm sitting so close in the action as it is now. So kind of spoiled.
I love the answer, and it's on right. You and plus you still got your game face on. You still, it's hard to get out of that mode. Like even though you're
Yeah.
not there working, you're thinking as if you are. It's in
Well, especially with the
um,
Braves game too, because I haven't shot there before. So I was like, like in my mind doing research, like, okay, if I shoot here in the future, you know, I should go to this side or that side, or just trying to get tips. And yeah, it's at some point I need to turn my brain off, which probably be a good idea.
well, Brian, I appreciate you coming on and giving some of that behind the scenes insight. I think again, I know I've said this on more than one time here, but I think it's important to realize the work and detail that goes involved. We get to open a pack of cards and enjoy the work that photographers such as yourself do, but I think people don't realize the grind and the effort for that final product to be there for us to enjoy. And I'm glad you shared some of that. While I may know there's probably a higher percentage that don't realize all that stuff, and I think it's important to know that and kind of give credit where credit's due, and so I appreciate it. As always, I give the guests kind of where people can follow you, social media wise, anywhere you want to direct them. Go ahead and let folks know.
Yeah, thanks. So I'm mainly on Instagram, sports card photographer. I do have a Twitter account, sports card photo, which I don't use very often. Like if I see someone post a tweet about a card that is a picture of a card that has my picture on it, I'll retweet it. But mostly on Instagram, and yeah, when I started my Instagram account, it was basically the story behind the photo. So I would write sort of the process behind getting that photo, what was happening during the game, where I was shooting from, and I loved doing that. And then when my son was born, I didn't have the time to do that, so I've just sort of been posting, photos and cards, but hope to get back to that soon because it it's a unique story about okay, what was happening during the game when that photo was taken, and what was the thought process. So gives people sort of behind the scenes of what we do. So
Yeah, very cool. Look forward to seeing, your work continue on cardboard and chrome, and very important, right? Without you on the front lines there, we wouldn't have the cards that we have to enjoy. So keep up. I know it's a grind. Pace yourself. Keep up the great work, and look forward to seeing some of that great work on cardboard and chrome.
thanks for having me.
Thank you.